All right, good morning, everyone. Go ahead and get started with our CEJA office hours. I did want to go over some updates that went out this past Thursday evening. Um, so the first one was there's an issue with when navigators would go to submit a request to transfer, request for a customer. The navigator dropdown was not showing as a selectable option. That is now showing. So navigators will be able to submit those requests. There was an issue where that was not populating. So we have that corrected. Let's see. And then I did want to go to the dashboard here because we've added a row to the intake section to identify customers who are on a wait list. So you can see here, we've added this to the top of the application section, and that will pull back customers who have been indicated as being on a wait list. This table here. Let's see, and then a couple things to note on the intake page. Let's see here. Let me actually go to a different customer because I don't think it shows up for. Yeah, sorry about that. Um, Let me go to someone who is an applicant here. Okay, here we go. All right, so on the intake page, um, if there's, I should say, on the intake page for customers who are not yet enrolled, so pre-screening or applicant, we do have this checkbox here. This was hidden. Previous update had hidden this, but we can now select this checkbox here for the customer decline to participate. We can uncheck that as needed too. So that'll update their status there. We've also added text here just to kind of help with transfer requests. If the customer is enrolled, please close their services and update their training completion status to withdrawal on the program completion follow-up tab. And then the last item I wanted to go over was there was a service for job site, the service job site visit slash tour. It did have a couple extra tabs. It was for post assessments and earned credentials. We've since, and because it had that, it would require a passing score of 70% for the assessment to mark that as successful completion. But we updated the service so it just doesn't have those tabs. It doesn't have that logic. So if you were unable to close that job site visit, slash tour service, you'll now be able to do so. And let's see if there's anything else to know before I open it up to questions here. I think the only thing I'd like to note would be, since it came up on a previous call earlier this morning, is in the dashboard just to, if you're not receiving the email request to respond to transfer requests that are submitted by another organization to please take a look at that and respond to those transfer requests accordingly. So in this case, in test here, we have two customers. When we select that two, it'll pull up this list here. And we have a customer whose inquiry. And to respond to those, we'll select the name, and then we'll click this button, respond to request. in here we can accept or reject it, but we'll see which organization has requested the transfer request. So you can click accept there. And then for customers who have an applicant status, we will select their name and then go to their intake tab. And there will be a button at the top here for us to respond to request right here. And then we can click to accept. And so once we've accepted those, if we go back to our dashboard and click this button to filter, we will see that number go from 2 to 0. So we've responded to all our transfer requests there. And you should be receiving an email when a transfer request is submitted. But understand that some emails go to spam or junk folders. So just kind of reminder for all, just to take a look at that first row for transfer requests in the dashboard list there.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
Could you show how to navigate to the dashboard?
Yeah, certainly. So when we are, let me go to, so when we access the CEJA reporting system, we can reach the dashboard by selecting this dashboard drop down here. And if you're in other programs, you might see those there, but we'll just click CEJA, and that will bring us to the dashboard, and then we can filter accordingly. We might have, I know some grantees and navigators have access to multiple programs, but you'll be able to see those and filter accordingly. And then just click the button to filter, and then that will pull up the dashboard table here.
Thank you, sir. I think it'd be good. I don't know if I want to say homework, but a good follow-up after this is if you're not, everybody should check the dashboard. That tells you what items need attention in the system. And as David mentioned, also shows you who's requesting or the transfer requests that are in there and need to be responded to. So I highly encourage everybody to just check out their dashboard, either during the call or after the call, to see what red flags you might have.
Thank you, Nate. And something else I did want to note, because there's an issue that popped up earlier. There's a discussion about reporting numbers. And let me see if I have this in test here. We had an issue with a couple of these here, see if I have that in test here. And actually I might be able to replicate it, but for customer status, or found an issue where if we changed, if they were, I think if they were exited, well, I might have to do a little testing to replicate it, but an issue that we're going to have our programmers work on, though, is in updating these statuses from one status to another. When we refreshed, it was showing up as unknown. Obviously, that's not a status that we have in the system, for CEJA. But if you do see that, we do have, we are going to have our programmers get a fix in for that. Hopefully by the next TA session call. I just wanted to put that on people's radars in case they had come across that themselves, that we will be looking into that. And I think with that, I'll go ahead and open it up to questions. You can add them in the chat or come off mute, or if there's any process or action within the system you'd like us to walk through, we can do that.
Hey, David.
Hi.
This is Joy and Jackie here at NBC. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Hey, not necessarily a question about walking through anything. We wanted to know if there is the ability, one, and if not, if we could potentially add the ability to have templates in our case notes that we can create and just have.
Well, let me pull up the case note here for someone.
Mhm.
Oops, just muted myself. Okay, so let me. So when we add a case note here, well, I guess, yeah, like what with your question, or yeah, what would that look like? Would you, I guess.
So from here, there could be another drop down that just says templates, and we could add in just text. And so when you select a certain, so like we would want to create these templates for our caseworkers to, like, if it's just a follow-up call, um, if it's a
information about orientation week.
orientation, and the types of case like touch points that we'll have. We can have different templates to make sure we're capturing the information that we need to capture and they can reference when they have these conversations. What's another example? If they're doing like
So
a
you're saying
check call. Mhm.
it'd be like all the questions that you wanted to ask during each of these kind of specific categorized types of interactions.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, let me talk with our programmers about that because I have some kind of thoughts that are, coming to mind on how
Yeah.
we could
So
structure something like that.
have you worked with Bullhorn before?
No.
Okay. It was a recruiting software, and so you were able to just have a drop down. You can edit those. Like any person could have their own template, or the organization could have templates already kind of pre set up. And so when you click on the template, the text just populates in what here is in the add your message.
Hmm. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'll check that out and see, if that's something that we can do in our system.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I was just going to jump in and mention that, as we work toward automating the monthly reports to where you'll be able to pull those from the CEJA reporting system. Right now, we only have the ClimateWorks program set up. So if you're a navigator or a hub, those reports will not work for you right now. But one thing I think we all should be working on is aligning the data in the manually entered monthly report with the data that's currently in the CEJA reporting system. And so I think I think everybody should kind of do that exercise. Like, you've got your monthly report, there's going to be one due a week from tomorrow. And when you submit that monthly report, do the program completers, do the transition outcomes, do those align with what you have in the system? Are you reporting 30 program completers on the monthly report, but you've got 0 program completers in the system? If so, get with your RA, let us know that, hey, there's a discrepancy, and we can schedule a call with David to kind of go student by student if we need to figure out, okay, here's what we need to change. It might just be we're not, we don't have a process for marking them as complete, or maybe we just need to get on the same page with what complete is, or we've got them marked as exit before they've actually exited. Just, we want to make sure we get those aligned.
And taking a look, just a couple things to note as a follow-up to that, when you're updating customer records, if it seems like something is off, on this overview page, like maybe, you've added the credential to a service, but it's not showing here. Or, you've updated a service, but it's not, that status or update isn't pulling here. Maybe this is still yellow. Really for any of these items. When you're looking at a customer, I'd say just to take a look at this timestamp here because it's not kind of live. We have an update, that happens every evening, but as you're making updates in any of these tabs here, you can click this refresh status button. That way, you have the latest. This page then has the latest information, and so you can do that. Looks like Tess pre-slowed this morning, but it looks on the customer page, you can do that here, refresh status, and I believe, okay, yeah, I think it was a different program, but yeah, you can click that button to make sure you have the latest data, and then that way, that can be, you can refilter this dashboard here, especially if the numbers that you're taking a look at are seem off. I do see a question on accessing the recording. So let me go to our partner guide here. So, and let me go back a page. So we have on, this is our main website for kind of all of our programs, this workforce and education partners page. And if we scroll down to program guides for partners, we have, and I'll add all these links into the chat here. We have guide pages for partner guide pages for ClimateWorks, Workforce Hubs, and the navigators. And so let me add those links into our chat here. You can take a look, and they're all structured the same way. But if we open up this ClimateWorks one, for example, we can scroll down to this icon here, technical assistance, tutorials, and videos. And it looks like I need to update this. We'll have links to the upcoming sessions, and when these are dated and as agendas come out, we can get those added onto the partner guide pages. But so yeah, we have our upcoming webinars here. And then below this table, we have the previous ones, so our archived sessions, and we have the dates, if there's a specific topic that was covered, recordings, presentation slides, any other documents that we went over during the call. We'll get those added to the page here. I would say usually the day of, or a couple days after the event, we can get those added there. And so those are kind of the office hours and the TA sessions. But if you're also looking for just kind of step-by-step tutorials, we have just down below on the partner page, different steps, actions in the system, and how to do it. So we kind of list out for ad outreach events, partners engagements, steps 1 through 5, and we have links to instructional handouts, and then off to the side here a short video specifically tied to that action there. And so we cover adding those events and engagements and partners, to adding customers, completing pre-screening, completing the application, the intake assessments, sending referrals, managing services and the career plan, and then that program completion follow-up page, adding in, updating the status, and adding the transition outcomes and so forth.
Question. Hi, David.
Hi.
Hi, this is Joy. I have one more question.
Sure.
It's with the reporting system. So would we have the ability to pull a report that would show our barrier reduction services, like if we want to see the ones that are most popular versus the ones that are not being used, like if we want to see what that looks like, will we have that capability?
Um, I'm not sure, and I'm taking a look at, it'll let me. I think we have one report. It might need to be updated. Or maybe we don't have, because I know there's a customer services report, but I don't know if it's pulling in CEJA currently. It looks like it might actually. Although now that I think about it and I'm taking a look at this report, it would really just show the name barrier reduction service. It wouldn't kind of break down into those like cost types, and that more specific information. Um, so I think that's something we'll have to, I think, build. But yeah, currently there's not really a way to see, if both of these customers have, barrier reduction services. You'd have to currently you'd have to go into, their, service to get that information. But I think that's something we can look into creating.
Thank you so much for that, David. Another question.
Yeah.
This is Jackie this time. With our barrier reduction partner that are administering services, and we have them set up in WorkNet to just do that from their end when they administer, when our participants go straight to their facilities to do that. Is there a way to have a different, what is the word, like a different accessibility to the system, because they're getting our transfer requests and things like that? Or will they just continue to get those?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, the way it's currently set up is they would continue to get those. Excuse me. Um, because I know that's another grantee had reached out recently.
And I thought it came up probably months ago.
Yeah.
That's why I knew that
Excuse
we
me.
had the availability to do that. But yeah, I didn't know if there was a different level of access. So
Yeah, not
So
currently. But go ahead.
we're not able to turn off the notifications for certain people. I mean, is that what you're saying? Is it set up to where if they're associated with the grant, they're getting the email?
yeah, they're
Mhm.
getting the transfer requests, and they don't need to get all that. So they don't have to be bothered with it.
Yeah, I'd have to talk with our programmers about how we can manage that. My first thought would be maybe adding a section. Let's see. This grantee details page. Let me close some of these out.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps somewhere in here where we could almost just, you'd be able to go in and, see just, kind of check, names off the list, to, kind of receive those emails. At least that's my thought. I'd have to talk with the programmer about that.
Yeah, permissions, who
Yeah.
gets all of these and who gets this, and yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm just rambling. I have another one. Nate, since you're
That's what
here, and honestly, this may be for the group. We've been trying to figure out, but I'm going to direct it towards David and Nate first. And David, this is what you, myself, and Michelle talked about probably a week ago now, about adding these training programs into it, since I just saw, if you scroll up. Nate, did y'all do that as regional administrators at the training programs, and we just select from what's available? Or I was trying to add our own in there, because there is training to do that.
I'm not sure I'm familiar with this one. Maybe I'll let David.
Yeah, I'm not really following Jackie. I'm sorry.
Or
Yeah.
Jackie, were you asking if kind of the RAs had the training programs or you?
Kind of, I am asking that because
Yeah.
we have training to add the programs in. And when I go to add program, we, this team, we weren't sure about what I was supposed to do for the CEJA programs that we're offering, because it's a pre-apprenticeship, like the first couple things we weren't sure of. So I'm wondering, and I reached out to Lewis and Clark to see if they added the programs in and what their, I talked to Julie, who may be on the call. Yeah, Julie's on the call. I talked to Julie about it, and she said they just had the pre-existing like solar and stuff like that was already in there that they attached to the participants. And so, yeah, like here is what my questions were. I kind of got stopped there because are we a career pathway? Like what are we offering?
Yeah, and Jackie, I'm sorry. I thought you met with David and he walked you through this.
Well, no, we didn't have the answers. We weren't sure. He wasn't sure. I don't think you were sure either. And I didn't want to move on unless I selected the right one. So,
Well, let me put it this way. So, and I'm not sure. I'd have to check to see what most grantees have selected. But as far as this option here, I think probably for the most part, this career pathway is the option that gets selected.
Yeah, I thought that's what you did tell them, and was career pathways.
no, that's what we were thinking. I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah.
And then the approved program training source.
I'd say, yeah, you can, if the program is, PVVS or, part of, WIOA, you can, use the searches here to search
they
and
don't-
select, but
David, they don't know any of that. I mean, they're not. They shouldn't have to pick that. They don't. I don't. The WIOA part is very confusing because this has nothing to do with WIOA.
in that case, then,
why
yeah,
they're confused.
yeah,
Right.
in that case, then you'd select this third option for submit training program for approval, and then you would just fill out the, information here.
In theory, this is Larry, shouldn't there only be two options for most CEJA grantees? Either it's a pre-apprenticeship or a career pathway? Currently.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very confusing.
I don't know if we can change career pathway to workforce hub, or if we
Right.
And that would make more
Even more
sense
sense,
to
yeah.
grantees if
Exactly what I was.
none of this applies, and so it's very confusing.
Okay. And so, I mean, if anyone wants to chime in, did any of the other grantees add training programs on the call? Or do you know? Take that as a no.
Sorry, I only
And
have,
say-
in my area, it's just Julie, and Lewis and Clark, and I don't know.
Yeah,
about
and when I talk to Jackie, we don't even have this option anywhere on our this screen doesn't even show up on mine when I go into that.
Yeah.
So everything was already there. Now I started after the program was already up and running. And so I don't know if somebody else had done something, but I don't have any options for any of this on my pages.
David, did you and Natasha do this? Because these all, like Lewis and Clark started really early, so maybe you all did that for them. I don't remember. I know I did not.
I don't think I don't think we would have added training programs for any of the grantees.
And maybe Julie, maybe Val did.
Yeah, that's who I had reached out to. She was out in the last week. And so that's what I'm thinking. Hers or bringing them, they have. And they definitely, I could just ask them. But Yeah,
Jackie,
I just wanted to make sure I understood because we're gonna add a third training option and like, and I don't think that's in the drop down of the already existing training programs that Julie has been using. So, you know, yeah.
So Jackie, I know we tried to do this together once and we were stuck because I had the same questions you have, but now that we have a couple of answers, I'm happy to walk through this with you just so I can see where the confusion might be going forward, if that
Okay,
works
yeah.
for you.
Yeah,
Can I
Rhiannon.
clarify which page we're on right now? Are you in the folders, right? Where it's provider info and then training programs,
Mhm.
right?
Correct.
And mine, the only thing on my page is under project, it only has one option, which is CEJA. Under
Mhm.
grantee, it only has the options for Climate Works or the hub or
Mhm.
senior services. And then provider, it doesn't have any options. So I
Mhm.
don't know. And then
That's
once I, like,
fine.
if I
Like,
choose
yeah.
one, it has where I can click on add a program. I've never done anything with that. I do see it now. I hadn't noticed that before, um, but I've never done anything with any of this.
So Julie,
I
what
wonder if we need
happens is when you select like your grantee, that's when you have the option to add the program. And so
When
mine is the same, it's CEJA, and then it's the Macedonia Development Corporation. And then when I select that, it allows me to add a program.
Right. And I've never done that. I just now realized as we were talking that I actually even had that as an option.
Yeah,
So during the time that I've been here, nobody has ever even brought that to my attention that I was supposed to do anything. So if I am, I need to do that.
yeah.
But the
Maybe we
only
need another walkthrough of just how to enter the programs in the system, David. Is that something you can do maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know if you have time now or maybe next time.
I was just
Yeah.
about to say that, Nate.
That would be
Yeah.
great. Yeah,
The
that would
training,
be great.
the training that I referenced was the Climate Works, and that's a pre-apprenticeship. So that was easy. And then I had the walkthrough about that. But I think the Workforce Hub is a little bit different. So if we
And
do
Jen-
that, it's awesome. So I can save that real quick.
Yeah. Let's go over that now. So when we're in the customer support center, really whether you're on this groups page where you'd see all your progress or all your programs that you're in, or I think even in like a customer record. So when you're logged in, you can select this provider info file folder here, and then we'll select the training programs tab. And it sounded like in Julie's case, and if you only have access to CEJA in the system, some of this will it may auto populate, but if you have access to other projects, you'd select CEJA and then the grantee, and then we can see. Okay, it looks like we did previously add one, but when we click filter, we can see which if any programs that we've got entered here. But then we'll click the add program button to add. And so we have this first tab here for add program information. And we're going to select either pre-apprenticeship or career pathway. And then under approved training program source, we'll click this button to submit training program for approval. And then we'll fill in all of the required fields. So we'll do the program name and a program description. Operating system. Let me actually open up this info bubble here. So this it says to include course delivery overview, credentials earned upon completion, career pathway information, and perks for participating in the program. So you can enter that in the description here. And then here we'll select the provider name and then the address information. And then we have a few different codes to enter. So this first one is the CIP, the CIP code. And if we don't know the code, we can select this button to look it up, and then we can enter a keyword in here, or we can select search and pull back everything. And then in the second search bar here, we can enter some text to filter down to which is the best fit. So we'll select this one here, and we can see that that gets plugged in. And then the next field, time to complete the program in weeks, say 18. And then training program, career pathway. I'm not sure because I'll kind of pause here. Adding the training program area. This is kind of the template for all programs that are within workNet, not just CEJA. I'm not sure what if we're really able to change much, or to change these options in this drop down here. And I might have a quick question for the regional administrators. Did we previously decide which kind of was the best option to select here?
Boy, not remembering this.
Um,
This is currently live.
yeah, these are our the options that are in the system.
Yeah, I think
No.
we need another option.
I just remember talking about how that we didn't have an option. Can that,
Right.
does it have to be mandatory?
Yeah, it is a required field. I can check to see if we can add an option, but I'm not
Can you
sure that we'll be
Can you
able
see
to.
what everybody else put? All the other grantees that do solar? Might have
I would
been
have to
construction
check.
that we chose. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But that
I don't think that's even there.
it's,
Then
I don't see
architecture and
it.
construction.
Oh yeah, architecture and construction. Maybe that is what we
I
what we
think that's what
chose.
we landed on,
Yeah.
but that's
And
because
truth
there
be
was
told, I
a-
think this kind of label really only exists in this training program area. I don't think it really impacts anything else in the system. It's kind of just a label. But yeah, I can check with our programmers to see if we can add some other options in here. Okay, so it sounds like for now, maybe just select architecture and construction. We can always come back in and change them too. So once we've selected that, we then go to another code lookup, the sock code, and this will operate this pretty much the same way as the previous one. So we can enter a keyword here, or pull back everything just by selecting search, and then entering some text to find the best fit here. So when we select that, we'll see the code populates here, the target occupation as well. And if we need to kind of tweak the language here, we can. And then the last code lookup is the NAICS code. So when we select that, again, we can select the search button. And then in the second text box here, enter this in and find the best fit. And if you'd like, you can include well, that's actually a separate tool. I don't think we really need to worry about that. But then under this enrollment information section, we have what is your projected number of participants to serve. And then in this program contact dropdown, the names you're going to see are those who have access to the system. So if you don't see a name in there, that means they don't have access to CEJA.
And should they, how does that name get in there, David?
So when Natasha or I, when the grantees and navigators, I don't think need to do this, but when the grantees reach out and say, they created an account and we've granted them access, Natasha or I have granted them access. Once that's happened, then their names would populate in this program contact field here.
Is it possible for grantees to have to have just not done this yet, and but they're enrolling people in just a generic training program? I have gotten 0 questions on this, so I'm guessing grantees have not done this.
Yeah, it seems like I have to check to see which grantees have added the programs.
We
And I
have
can
had
share that.
we've had 4 classes go through now, and I've never added this for any of them. The only thing I've ever done is gone in and changed their unique track, whether they're doing energy auditor or the solar training, and added that. But it has by default put all kinds of things on their career things. So if this is something, do I need to just use all the information from when these were approved, when we got our grant written, and get these put in? I never knew anything about this until Jackie started asking me about it.
I would say we would want the training programs in here. It doesn't, if you've already added customers or if you haven't added customers, I think that's okay. That doesn't, there's nothing that you've previously entered or, that you'd have to go back and change. But I think this, would be useful to have just as a record and for reporting purposes too.
Is this not being in there one of the reasons that my system is continuing to not show people as placed, even though we've placed them in jobs?
I don't think that would be tied to it. I think that's a separate issue.
Julie,
Yeah,
this
that
is
sounds to the point, right?
Yeah.
this is Michelle. I think we
Yes.
all need, me, Nate, Larry. I don't know if Diana's on. I think we need, as well as David, we need to get together and give
Okay.
them all clear direction on this, because obviously we're confused too. So
Okay, we have a new manager for our site that has started. He started yesterday too. So when we get ready to do that, I can loop him in on that as well, just so he can kind of see what's going on. So, okay, I'll just look forward to us getting together at some point. Thank you.
Emily is noting in the chat that her programs are showing as pending, but I don't know where that request for approval would have gone.
Yeah, that's something that Nate only we would see kind of in the super admin role. When we're on the previous page, filter to this again. And I don't think we have any, notification going out for super admins, but we'd see in this approval status, when, when you would be logged in, you would see, this would probably show pending. And then, after the program information's reviewed, along with the credentials, you can change the status from pending to approve.
And where'd you access that? The provider?
That's on the training programs tab here.
That was really part of my question I had too, like who does the approval? And so David, you're saying y'all's team does the approval?
Yeah, the regional administrators would be doing the approval.
And then I know we're kind of figuring this out still, but where it said, how many weeks is your program?
Mhm.
Do you know if we include the bridge into that? It's a little bit, time to complete in weeks.
I think there's a question about bridge on the next page. So let's take a look at that next page. And then, we would just enter minimum age for, participate in the program and any additional notes here. And if we go to the next page, okay. Yeah, so I think to answer your question, yes, since we do have this question, does this agency offer a bridge program?
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And that makes sense because it's continuous. So.
Yeah.
But now how is this going to roll up to the cohorts then, David? Because the bridge and the job specific will be different cohorts for that.
Yeah, I think this indicator is just, I don't think this ties into, where we're adding that cohort information. I think this is just a label within the training program information.
Thank you all.
Mhm.
And how did you get to this, David? I'm struggling to get to provider info.
Yeah, so when you're logged in to CEJA, Nate, if you click this file folder
Yeah.
icon, yeah,
Then just go to training programs. I see it now too.
yeah,
Then you have to pick the project or program, and then grantee.
yep.
But David, we don't get notifications that anything has been. Just go and check for
Yeah,
the
I
existence
think
of these.
Yeah, I think Larry, we had an internal spreadsheet. I'll try and see if I can track that down. But if not, I can put together a spreadsheet that just lists out all the grantees and shows which ones have training programs that have been submitted. Um, and then yeah, then you'd be able to kind of review and approve. But yeah, like I said, I'll have to track that down and send that and share that with y'all. And this baseline requirements tab, I know we have this bridge question here, but the rest of these are optional to update. You don't need to fill out these questions for target audience, institution sector type, what are the goals of the program, how is the training offered, and requirements center the program, lifting, standing, sitting, if there's any requirements there. If there's any tests that need to be required to pass or drug tests, and then vision, appearance, taste or smell requirements, and then some other 3 or more motor vehicle tickets, instances in the past year, valid driver's license, what kind of background check, how can this training program be accessed, and what are the primary languages spoken for this program. I think again, this is kind of the template for all programs within workNet for adding training programs, but this second tab is for baseline requirements is optional. So if none of those are applicable, you can click to add, or sorry, click to continue. And then we just have our last section over here for associated credentials. And then to add the credentials, we click at this link here to add and submit request for Commerce to approve credential. And then we would enter in the credential name, the type of credential that it is, and then the institution or owner of the credential, the organization administering it, and then a description of that credential here. And then these next few are optional for the credentials, but you could add, if there's a level of degree that was required, or relevant occupations, industries, and then subject areas. You can add as many of those as you'd like. And then the last question, though, is does this customer earn this credential, or do they get prepared to earn the credential upon completion of the program? And then when that's selected, you can click save. And then when we're done with the, done it, and you can continue to add credentials. If you need to go back and update it, you certainly can. But then once we're done, we'll click finish. And then that will submit the program here. So when we come back to this page, we have this indicator over here that this has been submitted. And one of the reasons that we have this is, and let me see if I can do this real quickly here, just to grant this approval. One of the reasons we have this too is when the credentials are saved and when this has been approved, you're able to it can save you some time, adding credentials to customer profiles, which we can quickly go over. But just real quickly to show how to approve this. Well, to approve the credentials, we'd click Edit. This is more so for the RAs. And we navigate over to our credentials, and we'll see this as approved. Click that.
So this is all part of the program approval, all within the same entry, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. And then let's see, where was that here? So we approve the credential, and then we can approve the program. Program ABC. Okay. So then, back over here as the grantee, we can see that this is now approved. And one of the things I want to show with this is, hopefully get here pretty quickly. Let me find someone who's enrolled. Is that when we're editing a service, to our services over here. Let's find a training service. Okay, so how about this service? So when we're editing a service, once the training program's been approved, we can, under service provider, select, so this is our organization, but then this is the program we've just added here. And when we update this with a case note, the service will now show, oh, I gotta update that first tab, don't I? Let me throw in some dates here. Which weekly hours started? Okay, so let's try that again. So when we make that selection and update the service, we'll see that that program's been selected. And then on the Earn Credentials tab, the credential for that program that we added, appears as a selectable option here. So when we select that information we entered, will auto-populate. So then we just need to select the credential source and the date that was obtained. So you can quickly add the credential that way. It saves you time if you're excuse me, manually editing or manually adding each credential where you have the name, the credential source, and all these other fields here. So it's kind of essentially it's kind of a template for you to be able to quickly add and reference the credentials for the program. So you got your hand raised, Joy.
Okay. Hey, sorry. Jackie here. This is great. Thank you for walking me through this. And I'm glad we're still on credentials because with the bridge being included when we add in the program, our participants in our bridge will be receiving a Department of Labor pre-apprenticeship environmental literacy credential. So we just add that as an additional credential from each program. So we're adding our solar and then we're adding our bridge technical training options. So they'll get those credentials and we add another one and they'll also both get the Department of Labor credential.
I would turn that question to the RAs. Nate, Michelle, and Larry, would we want the grantees to add those DOL credentials into that training program?
Because it's part of the bridge.
Yeah, as part of the bridge.
You're talking about the OSHA?
No, I thought
Wait.
those were there. That was kind of the third question, but those are there. It's a different, in our bridge, we have that roots of success.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And so that's a credential, yeah.
So, and I apologize, David. I'm still trying to figure out how this is tied in because I don't know that anyone has put their training programs in here with credentials. So Um, I, I'm just trying to, when they enter their credentials, are they going to be able to use that to pick once they enroll them in that service and they've obtained the credential? Is that the purpose of them adding the credential in?
Yeah.
Understanding is that we attach it to their career plan. And then we follow up with the completion. And so my concern was that there were the pre-populated training programs approved, but sorry. But what am I trying to say? I got derailed so bad. Oh, like Julie said, that there were things that she had to kind of take away because it didn't apply to their training program. So by us adding our specific program into it, this is exactly the credentials and all of that that our participant will be following in their career plan. So it's specific to our hub, to our program.
Right.
That's my understanding of the purpose.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
what I don't see is an ability to add credentials outside of adding the program. Is that right?
Yeah. So, and we might have to, the RAs and I kind of discuss internally if we want to have grantees add, those types of credentials to, the training program here. Excuse me. Yeah, I think we'll have to have a discussion about that. And just kind of on another screen, I do see that there have been some grantees that have submitted training programs, but Nate, Michelle, and Larry, I'll do an inventory to see and kind of a breakdown of who has and hasn't added them, and then we can meet together or kind of discuss. There's a couple questions in there that we weren't 100% sure. We can put together a cheat sheet or guidance on what to select. And
That would be great, David. Thanks.
And I go one. I'm sorry. I just go one step further to say that we do not have the whole network of grantees on this call, and so we might want to go back and maybe publicize a specific training to get people to fully understand the whole process and kind of get that on the books. I think since it's apparent that it's not a universally done activity at this point.
Yeah, I 100% agree, Larry.
I just wanted to make sure Julie's question is in that conversation because it's very relevant to understanding how we are going to put these in here. And it may look different because she's saying that the bridges are separate maybe for her programs are together right now, but yeah, should the bridge be its own?
The bridge is part of every single program that we do, but then once they finish that bridge, they can branch out into different specific trainings. So I didn't know if we need to have the bridge set up separately and then have a program for each of those, or if we just automatically know that in every program, the bridge is included in that. Does that make sense?
So Julie, on your program, they complete the bridge, then they go into the job specific, right?
Correct. Yes.
So it's not.
So at the end of their 6 weeks for the bridge, they can then choose which specific program that they want to do.
Right. Because right now it is set up to where they're enrolled in bridge and then they're enrolled and they complete the bridge, then they're enrolled in the job specific.
Correct.
Okay, maybe I'm misunderstanding your question. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the way ours is done. Is technically it's worked out that they do the bridge and they go straight into it's been solar. We've only done one other program,
right?
So it's 7 weeks for all of that. But since the 6 weeks part of it is the same for all of them, and then depending on what they're doing anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks of additional training for their program that they're in. Should we be setting up the bridge separately, or just know that with every single specific training we're doing, that includes the bridge for every single class? So that if they're doing solar, I say it's a total of 5 weeks, or I'm sorry, of 11 weeks, knowing from my end that that's 5 weeks in one and 6 weeks in the other. And then
Yeah.
so like for the electronic, for the energy auditor, they're doing 6 weeks of the bridge and then 2 weeks of the actual training for the specific skill. So up as a 7-week program and including the bridge. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're talking about setting it up in the adding the training programs. In my opinion, as Larry just said, because there's so much confusion, I think that we all need, me, Larry, Nate, David, Natasha, need to get
Definitely.
together and create guidelines and have a training for you all.
Okay,
Because just on that
perfect.
topic, because
Okay,
because
thank you.
I'm not still fully understanding the connection. So I understand what you're saying completely, Julie. So just in the system, I'm not understanding the connection of entering these training programs and then enrolling them into it. Since so many people didn't have them in there, we didn't even know. So I'm just confused.
Hey, David, I just have one really quick question.
Yeah.
And this is going back to the case notes. So after our case managers complete their case notes and submit it, if they realize that they made a mistake, is there an edit button that they can go back into to update that particular case note, or no?
No, but I think in that case, you could just add, a note here, another case note to, to specify, which case note, maybe, identify the date or, excuse me, refer to which case note that is, add in that updated information.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. It looks like we are a few minutes over. But yeah, we will discuss internally, excuse me, more about the training program information, and then we'll reach out to all the grantees and have another training, and with that, updated guidance. So you'll be hearing from us in the future about that. And I will get this recording posted to our partner guide pages. But if there's any other questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or the regional administrators. And with that, we'll go ahead and end our call. Thanks everyone for joining, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.